Clay Garrison slammed a thick, stapled folder onto the conference table like it was a verdict. "We need to talk," he said, already playing judge, jury, and executioner. The glass walls of his office offered no privacy. Anyone walking by could see me sitting there, blinds wide open like a stage, and people were watching, slow walking past, glancing sideways like they were waiting for a show. "Joanna," Clay said, pressing his palm flat on the folder. An anonymous report came in, a serious one. He flipped it open. The top page hit me like a slap. Anonymous allegation, data breach, Joanna Pierce. I didn't move, didn't even blink. But my fingers grazed the ID badge clipped to my coat pocket. It was plain laminated plastic, just a name and a barcode. But I knew better. That badge wasn't just a formality. "Before we start, how's your day going, and where are you joining from?" Clay leaned back, spreading his arms like he was delivering a TED Talk instead of accusing a loyal employee of a felony. "You've always been one of the sharp ones here, but the integrity of this clinic matters more than one person's career. We can't let rot stay in the system." He was performing. He wanted me to cry or gasp or defend myself in front of the floor. People outside were pretending to type, but their eyes were locked on us. I could practically feel the gossip forming. "Anything to say?" he asked. I stared at him. Nothing in me was going to give him the satisfaction. No panic, no tears. I wasn't walking into a trap he built with his own arrogance. "You're not denying it," he pushed. Still nothing. He gave a disappointed sigh like a father talking to a kid who broke curfew. "I hoped we'd avoid this, but we've got a system to protect. Procedures." I leaned forward slightly. My hand brushed the edge of the table, not to grab the folder, just to make sure he saw I was steady. Calm. He thought he had power here. He didn't. I tapped my ID badge once with my finger, soft and deliberate. Let him think I was nervous. Let him think he was winning. Because in about 15 minutes, he was going to find out just how wrong he was. He had no idea what he'd just activated. As I sat there, watching Clay run his little courtroom routine, my mind started pulling back. Not by choice. It just went. I was 23 when I started at Rose Grove Medical Center, fresh out of nursing school, still shaking from my licensing exam, and scared out of my mind. I wasn't some hotshot doctor or high-level specialist. My first job was tucked in the back of the admin wing. Patient records, insurance coding, cleaning up duplicate entries, verifying access levels. The work nobody notices unless it goes wrong. But I loved it. That quiet order. A system that made sense. Numbers, timestamps, digital signatures. It was like stitching facts together to make people whole again. The frontline staff handled the bodies. I handled the data that kept them alive behind the scenes. While you're listening, tell us which country you're watching from. Back then, the protocols were a mess. Anyone with a login could poke around in files they had no business touching. I didn't complain. I just started fixing things. Quietly, I built rules, layered in audit checkpoints, rerouted clearance logic. I'd stay late, skip lunch, tweak forms until the system stopped throwing errors. Nobody asked me to. It just needed doing. Over time, people started noticing. IT called me for input. Compliance looped me into more meetings. One day, someone tossed me a title. Patient Data Integrity Lead. It wasn't glamorous, no raise, no corner office, but it meant I mattered. Then there was Clay. He showed up a couple years after me, straight from some consulting job in Boston. Wavy hair, bright smile, voice that filled every hallway. You'd think he was running for Congress the way he worked a room. I remember the first time he sat in on a compliance meeting. He didn't bring a laptop or a notepad, just walked in like he owned the table. He didn't know the difference between a restricted database and a billing API, but he could spin every minor system upgrade like it was a revolution. Called it tech-forward patient optimization, or some nonsense. The board loved it. He got his first bonus check 6 months in. Meanwhile, I was staying late flagging system bugs and cleaning up back-end reports he screwed up during his presentations. He once left a live production server exposed on an open port for 2 hours during a demo. I patched it without saying a word, told it was a glitch. He got praised for the seamless handoff. The worst was my dad's retirement party, 64 years old, 40 years working sanitation in Akron. My whole family was there, but I missed it. Clay needed the quarterly audit notes cleaned up before a press visit, said it was urgent, said it would make us both look good. I worked until midnight reformatting datasets and fixing broken charts he hadn't even looked at. He sent a 2-word text when I finished. All set. That's who he was. Always loud. Always charming. Always walking ahead with the spotlight while I made sure the floor didn't cave in underneath him. But I kept going. Because I believed in what I was building. A clean system, a smart system. One that protected people's data the way the front desk protected their bodies. No shortcuts. No gray areas. Over the years, I watched Clay climb. He made director of digital operations before I even got a private office. He gave speeches about transparency while ignoring half my flagged reports. Once, I caught him pulling system logs for patients he shouldn't even have access to. I brought it up. He laughed and said, "Relax, it's internal." I didn't relax. I started documenting, saving things, quietly building fail-safes. Not because I was scared, but because I knew guys like him. They play the long game with charm and noise, thinking no one notices the mess behind them. But I notice, and now, sitting in his glass-walled theater with that folder in front of me, I wasn't scared. I wasn't even mad. I was just ready. The door opened without a knock. Dr. Diane Rourke stepped in first, sharp as ever in her navy blazer and low heels. No makeup, no nonsense. Right behind her was Thomas Bell, IT forensic specialist, quiet type, carried 2 laptops and wore the same faded black hoodie at every meeting since I'd met him. No one in that room had more control over truth than those two. Clay stood up like he was welcoming royalty. "Diane, Thomas, thank you both for joining. This is delicate." He waited for them to sit before continuing, that fake concern spreading across his face like a politician in front of cameras. "As you've seen, the allegation points directly to a breach originating from Joanna's account," he said, sliding the thick folder toward Diane like it burned his hands. "And if we're being honest, this isn't just about one incident. This could be the root of a larger failure in our system." I said nothing. Diane didn't touch the folder right away. She looked at me, then Clay, then slowly opened it and flipped through the first few pages. Her face didn't move, but I caught the slight shift in her posture, like something didn't sit right. Thomas pulled one of his laptops onto the table and opened it. No small talk. Just a soft, "I'll verify against current server logs." Clay kept pushing. "We've done our due diligence, but the scope of what we found, patient data, rerouted, external IPs, red flag transfers, it's extensive. Frankly, we're lucky it was caught now before there was a leak." Thomas didn't look up. "What specific transfer are you referring to?" Clay tapped the folder. "Page 12, Diane flipped to it, her brow creased as she scanned. "This was a full bulk export, sent to an unsecured sandbox directory?" Clay nodded solemnly. "Exactly." She frowned deeper. "Joanna doesn't have access to this tier, does she?" I shook my head once. "Calm. Director. Number I don't." Thomas turned the laptop slightly, just enough to read from the screen. "Confirmed. Joanna's credentials don't have write access to sandbox environments. Only systems.ops.clay didn't respond. For the first time, he hesitated. Diane looked up slowly. "And systems ops falls under—" I met her eyes. "Clay's department." Silence. The room shifted. You could feel it. Clay's shoulders tensed just for a second. Thomas clicked something on his keyboard and leaned back, arms crossed. He wasn't defending me. He was letting the system speak. Diane pressed her lips together, flipped back a few pages, then pushed the folder toward Clay again. "Walk me through your version of how Joanna pulled this off." Clay cleared his throat, but no words came out right away. "Well, the audit trail shows user activity linked to her account." "Which didn't have access," Thomas cut in without looking up. Diane turned to Clay. "Was there any override? Temporary clearance?" "No," he said quickly. "Not officially. But there are workarounds." She raised one eyebrow. "That you're aware of?" He didn't answer. For a guy who loved to fill silence, he was suddenly choking on it. Diane didn't say anything else. She just sat back, eyes narrowing. Not angry, just calculating. Clay had come in hot with a script, expecting applause, but the audience was starting to walk out. Thomas leaned forward and closed the folder. "The activity log doesn't align with Joanna's access profile. Whoever initiated the transfer had Tier 3 clearance and direct port access. She's never had that. Her terminals never pinged that server." Clay opened his mouth again, but nothing came out. Diane looked at me. "Is there anything else we should know?" I just folded my hands. "You'll see it soon." Another beat of silence. Then Diane stood up and smoothed her blazer. "We'll continue this in real time." Clay stayed seated, hands clenched under the table. His script was falling apart, and for the first time, he knew it. Clay finally stood, shoulders tight, voice dipping into that fake controlled calm he always used when things weren't going his way. "I think we're getting distracted," he said, pushing the folder back toward Diane like it still had weight. "This isn't about server tiers or semantics. It's about trust, about someone on this team compromising patient safety. That's what matters." Thomas didn't respond. Diane didn't blink. The only sound was the soft hum of the HVAC above us and the faint tapping from Thomas's laptop as he logged something. And all I could hear under it? The low, steady rhythm of something waking up. See, when I accepted the data integrity lead role, I didn't just take the title and smile for the group photo. I rewrote the job contract from scratch. Legal didn't care. They just needed a body in the role. Clay didn't care either. He barely skimmed the first page before signing. Just wanted someone to lock up the boring stuff. But I had a clause buried in that contract, a safeguard. Quiet, automatic, and buried deep in legal language most people sleep through. It said if 3 specific triggers were met: 1, an anonymous allegation targeting me; 2, an official termination process initiated; 3, my active ID badge physically present on hospital grounds. Then a full forensic audit protocol would self-deploy. No human oversight, no IT approval, just raw server truth. Access logs, keystroke tracking, file movements, timestamps, all exposed and broadcast to admin-secured devices within the network. Clay had unknowingly checked every single box. Anonymous report? Check. Formal termination process? In motion. My badge? Still clipped right here on my coat. I hadn't touched a keyboard. I didn't need to. Clay kept talking. "Joanna's been trusted for years, but this incident, it's a reminder that even the best systems have vulnerabilities. It's my job to act before a crack becomes a canyon." He turned toward Diane, expecting some nod of approval. Nothing. I could feel it now. Not nerves, not anger, just gravity. That slow pull when you know something bigger than any of us is about to drop. I shifted slightly in my seat, kept my hands on the table, didn't reach for anything, just listened. Thomas's screen refreshed with a dull ping, barely audible, but I saw the way his eyes shifted. His posture stiffened. He noticed. He leaned forward again, slowly, hands still on the keyboard. Clay didn't notice any of it. He was on autopilot. "If we don't take this seriously, we risk the reputation of Rosegrove. That means board confidence, patient trust, funding, everything." His voice was loud again, too loud for the size of the room. He was filling space, trying to keep the story alive with noise. Diane didn't move, but her eyes darted once, quick, toward Thomas's screen. She felt it too. I stayed quiet. The badge sat on my chest, plastic still warm from my skin. It didn't glow. It didn't beep. It just was. And that was enough. Clay had spent years thinking the system was his stage, that no one saw the corners he cut, the trails he erased. He never thought someone like me, silent, behind the scenes, no spotlight, would build something underneath him. But the system was already running, and it wasn't asking permission. Clay cleared his throat like he was stepping up to a podium. He smoothed the front of his blazer, planted his palms on the table, and let his voice fill the room again. "This has been difficult for everyone," he began, glancing toward Diane like she'd asked for a speech. "But leadership means facing ugly truths, even when they're close to home." No one responded. "Ethics aren't optional," he said, pacing now, trying to ride momentum that wasn't there. "Not here, not with patient lives involved. I've spent years trying to rebuild trust in this institution, to raise standards, to clean up legacy mistakes, but that only works if we're brave enough to make tough decisions." I didn't move. "And this," he paused dramatically, "is one of those decisions." The door opened again, and 2 hospital security officers stepped in. Not in a rush, no weapons drawn, just quiet and waiting. One of them gave Clay a nod. He nodded back and raised his hand slightly, signaling them to stand by. Then he looked at me with that fake sympathy he always used on people he'd already decided were beneath him. "Joanna," he said, like he pitied me. "This isn't personal, but we can't allow doubt to linger in a role like yours. Effective immediately, your employment is terminated, pending further review of the internal investigation. You'll be escorted from the building." I stood up slowly. He relaxed, probably thinking I'd start to cry or argue or make some pathetic last plea. I didn't say a word. I reached up, unclipped my badge, and set it gently on the table, right in front of him. He looked down at it, then back up at me. His eyebrows pulled together like he didn't understand what was happening. He thought it was surrender. It wasn't. Before he could say anything else, his phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out, glanced at the screen, and answered with that same confident tone he always used with legal. Yeah, I have them here now. Okay, good. So it's confirmed? The report's valid? His eyes flicked toward me while he listened to whatever came next. Perfect. That's what I needed. He ended the call and let out a soft, satisfied breath. Legal has confirmed the anonymous complaint meets our internal thresholds, which means the wall screen behind him chimed. A bright alert box flashed across the display. Release protocol initiated. Audit trail unsealing in progress. Everyone turned at once. Clay's mouth hung open. What the hell is that? Thomas shot out of his chair and moved toward the screen. Do not touch anything. Diane stood too, already pulling out her tablet. I sat back down. The badge I'd placed on the table didn't move. It didn't glow or beep. It just lay there, dull, plastic, quiet, while the system roared to life. On screen, a black window opened, lines of text pouring in. Access logs, user IDs, timestamps, IP paths, server names, and data movement trails. No colors, no graphs, just cold, pure truth. Clay stepped forward. This is some kind of glitch. Shut it down. No, Thomas said. It's not a glitch. This is internal protocol code, hard-coded. It's authenticated. Diane's eyes stayed locked on the screen. Triggered by what? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Clay spun to me. Did you do this? Is this your doing? Still, I said nothing. He turned back toward the officers. She planted this. It's retaliation. Lock her access down now. Thomas didn't budge. That badge activated something the system recognizes as legitimate. I've never seen this protocol before, but it's not malware. It's institutional. Clay raised his voice. This is sabotage. She's trying to take me down with fake logs. Diane cut him off. Clay, sit down. He ignored her. I wanted to shut this down immediately. No, Thomas said again. This is already inside. Nothing to shut down. It's reading root-level audit logs. This wasn't planted today. This is months deep. I kept my eyes on the screen. One line popped up that changed everything. Unauthorized access. User garrison.c. Systems ops level 3. 0243. AM XIP logged. Clay read it. Then looked at me. His face was still, but his hand gripped the back of the chair. For the first time, he didn't look like the boss. He looked like the next problem on the system's list. The screen flickered again. A bold system banner stretched across the top in red and gray. Release protocol initiated. Audit trail unsealing in progress. Clay didn't move for a second. His eyes twitched like he was trying to read it again, as if maybe it would change if he blinked hard enough. Then he let out a short laugh. Okay, what is this? Some glitch? He stepped toward the screen, arm halfway out. Thomas's voice came sharp and clear. Don't touch it. Clay froze, hand still midair, then slowly dropped it. Everyone stared at the screen. Rows of data were filling in. Cold, time-stamped entries stacked one after another. Real logs, real servers, real user credentials. It was all laid bare, line by line. Then the first entry hit the room like a slap. So 2:43 a.m. User, Garrison C. Unauthorized access, patient billing record, number 193784. Thomas read it aloud without emotion. Just fact. Clay tried to speak. That's not, I don't even, more lines poured in. 0306 a.m. Garrison C. Record altered. Insurance modifier removed. 0308 a.m. Garrison C. Reassigned billable procedure. Tier 2 to Tier 4. Clay held up both hands. That doesn't mean anything. Could be a shared terminal. Could be old data. 3:10 a.m. Garrison C. External transfer. Yeah. Initiated. Sandbox server. Unsecured. Port Diane stepped closer. Thomas? It's current, Thomas said. Logs are certified. Biometric tied entries. These aren't shared terminals. These are direct inputs. Clay started pacing. Okay, slow down. Let's not jump to conclusions. There are explanations for everything. Thomas didn't stop reading. 0314 AM, Garrison.C, record lock bypassed. Manual override flag, ignored 0315. AM, Garrison.C, insurance audit flag. Deleted. Diane crossed her arms. You manipulated patient records. Clay pointed at the screen. Anyone could spoof that. We don't know if this is real. We don't know what she's built into the system. She? Thomas turned. You think she wrote root-level access trails that match your credentials, your biometrics, your timestamps? Clay's voice cracked. I think this is a setup. I think I'm being framed. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I didn't have to. The screen shifted again, now showing account sessions, IP logs, session lengths, keystroke patterns. It was overkill. Every second Clay had touched a terminal, the system had tracked it. Diane's face was stone. Tell me you didn't do this. Clay laughed again, this time sharper. Of course I didn't. Do you hear yourselves? You're letting a system write the story? You think this is justice? Thomas didn't even look at him. The system didn't accuse you. It just showed what happened. Clay swung back toward me. This is what you've been planning? You think you're smarter than the rest of us? Still, I said nothing. He slammed a hand on the table. You want to play games, Joanna? You're not built for this. You don't have what it takes to survive where real power plays. More lines appeared on the screen. 0409, AM, Garrison.C, external data pull, billing code list, extracted 0410, AM, Garrison.C, flagged account, pediatric oncology patient number 66712. The room shifted again. You could feel the tone drop. Diane stepped back like she'd been pushed. You touched oncology billing? Clay's mouth opened, but nothing came out, not even a lie. Thomas let out a low breath. You falsified billing on kids' cancer treatments? No, Clay whispered. Number, that's not what that is. Explain it, Diane snapped. I don't remember doing that. Maybe a transfer script auto? Stop talking. That came from Diane, cold and clean. Clay tried again, softer. You're not thinking clearly. This is snowballing out of... She didn't let him finish. This isn't snowballing. This is exposure. He looked like he'd been punched, like something in him finally broke open. The smugness, gone. His cheeks lost color. His breathing got shallow. That fake leader voice collapsed into stammering sentences and half-truths. The weight of every line on that screen was pulling him under, and the system wasn't done yet. Not even close. Clay stumbled back a step, one hand gripping the edge of the table like it might steady him. His eyes were wide now, darting between the screen and Diane like he didn't know which one would kill him faster. Then he found his voice again, and of course, it came out desperate. She hacked the system, he said, pointing at me. This is a setup. She planted all of it. Diane didn't even look at me. Her eyes were locked on him. These records are biometric locked, she said, voice flat. That means fingerprints, session activity, login sequence, all tied directly to the user. Joanna couldn't spoof that. She's been in the system for years, Clay snapped. She probably embedded a trigger, faked the logins. Hell, she might have spoofed the entire audit. She didn't, Thomas said. Clay spun toward him. Thomas didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He just pointed at the screen again. That badge activated a sealed protocol. I've just traced the origin token. It's hard-coded into the server authentication route. There's no external call, no custom script, no data manipulation. This is native, untouched, triggered exactly as written. She could have planned this, Clay shouted. She didn't write it, Thomas said, finally looking him in the eye. I did, Clay froze. Diane blinked once. You built the trigger with her? I helped implement it 3 years ago, Thomas said, after we had 3 patient data leaks traced to user error. Joanna asked for a safeguard no one could manually interfere with. She didn't want power. She wanted the truth to live outside people like us. Clay swallowed hard. His voice cracked when he spoke again. This isn't right. There's no way. I want it leadership in here now, he barked, trying to rally. I want a full verification of this so-called protocol. Diane stepped aside without a word. Thomas pulled out his phone and typed something fast. Less than a minute later, the door opened. Victor Kwan walked in, director of IT, highest security clearance on the floor, short guy, calm, carried everything like it was already handled. Thomas turned his laptop toward him. Audit protocol triggered by badge input. Trail unsealing underway. Can you verify the root checksum and token origin? Victor didn't say a word. He sat down, plugged in his secure key, and started tapping. The whole room stayed quiet except for the faint ticking of the wall clock and the hum of his typings. Clay kept pacing, muttering under his breath. This is a witch hunt. This is political. People are setting me up. One of the security guards shifted his stance. The other stepped half a foot closer to the table. Victor leaned back. The checksum is clean, he said. The code is legitimate. Token was embedded 5 versions ago. Never modified. System verified against all root hashes. Then he looked at Clay. All entries trace back to your credentials. Clay blinked like he'd been slapped. Victor didn't flinch. Keystroke patterns, session lengths, biometric lock. Everything points to you. Clay opened his mouth, then closed it. His hands dropped to his sides like someone had unplugged him. His face went pale. Not embarrassed. Finished. Diane turned to him. We trusted you with full-tier access, and you used it to alter billing, suppress flags, and reroute patient data to external servers. Over and over. Clay shook his head, barely whispering. I didn't mean for... Stop, she said. He tried again. I didn't think it would go this far. I said stop. Everyone looked at her now, including the guards. Thomas shut his laptop. Victor unplugged his drive, and the 2 security officers stepped forward. That was the moment the room turned. No more performance, no more bluffing. Just a man surrounded by his own footprints, too deep to cover anymore. Clay tried to recover. Look, this isn't what it looks like, he said, hands raised like he was talking someone off a ledge. There's been no harm done. No patient data was leaked. At worst, we're looking at misfiled expenses, internal stuff. Nobody moved. He turned to Diane. You know how messy our billing system is. Half the codebase is legacy garbage. We've all seen weird flags before. Her face didn't shift. He dropped the performance a little more. It's just a misunderstanding. It looks bad because someone wanted it to look bad. Still no response. Then Diane reached down and pulled a manila folder from her bag. She set it on the table and slid a single printed sheet out onto the surface. A familiar one. I recognized it the second I saw the bold header. Flagged access patterns, anomalous billing rewrites, plus external calls. My memo. Dated 5 months ago, clear as day. I'd send it directly to Clay after spending 3 weeks pulling those logs and tracing pattern inconsistencies. I'd highlighted several billing records, marked by off-hours access and unexpected privilege escalations. The footer even had my note in bold. Potential vulnerability. Investigate immediately. Clay squinted at it like he didn't know what it was. Then his face fell when Diane flipped it over. She'd printed his reply too. 1 sentence. No greeting. No signature. Don't chase ghosts. She looked up at him. You saw this. Clay didn't answer. You were warned, she said. You had a chance to review and escalate. Still nothing. Thomas was stone still beside her. Even Victor stopped typing. The room went quiet again, but not like before. This time, it was heavy. Like everyone could feel the weight of what that memo meant. He knew. 5 months ago, he had the data in his hands. He saw the red flags. He had time to investigate, flag it for internal audit, shut it down. But he didn't. He let it run. And now there it was, printed in black and white, his indifference. Diane's voice dropped. You didn't ignore it because it wasn't real. You ignored it because it was real. Clay tried to say something, anything, but it didn't come out as words. Just a quiet exhale, like the wind had finally left his body. Thomas stared straight ahead. Intent. That one word said everything. Clay lowered himself slowly into the chair, shoulders caved in. It wasn't about hurting anyone, he muttered. I was trying to clean up, plug gaps. The system's broken. I was just trying to make it efficient. No, Diane said. You were trying to cover your tracks. His head dropped into his hands. I didn't think anyone would actually look. Victor folded his arms. We did. Nobody defended him. Not Thomas, not Diane, not the guards. Not even me. There was nothing left to argue, no angle to spin. The system hadn't just exposed his actions, it had proved that he saw the mess coming and chose to do nothing. That memo stripped away whatever story he had left. Diane tapped it once, then slid it back into the folder. "This is no longer a personnel matter," she said. "This is criminal." Clay didn't speak, didn't move. And for once, the man who never shut up sat there in silence, completely alone. Diane gave one small nod to the guards. That was it. No announcement, no warning. Just a silent command that couldn't be argued with. The first officer stepped toward Clay. "Sir, we need you to come with us." Clay's head jerked up. Wait. This isn't how it goes." He stood up fast, too fast, knocking his chair backward with a scrape. "You can't just drag me out. After everything I've done for this place, for you people?" No one answered, not even a twitch from Diane or Thomas. "This is betrayal," he said, voice cracking. "You're letting her win? You think this isn't sabotage? You think she didn't engineer all of this?" The second guard moved in beside the first. Clay backed up, still trying to perform. "I built this department. I took the heat while you all played it safe. I fought for funding, for upgrades, for results. And this is how it ends? With a damn memo?" Victor said nothing. Diane didn't even blink. "Don't do this." Clay tried again. "I deserve a review, a hearing, something." "You've had it," Diane said. Just that, plain and final. One guard reached gently for Clay's elbow. He yanked his arm away like a child. "Don't touch me." The other stepped forward. "Sir." Clay's face twisted. Not with anger now. Not really. It was something else, like grief and shame mashed into one. "I gave my life to this place," he muttered. "I bled for it." Then he finally ran out of gas. He didn't resist when they took him by the arms, didn't shout again. He just let them walk him out like a patient who'd lost his mind in the waiting room. He didn't look back. I sat still, didn't follow, didn't speak, just watched him go. No hate, no satisfaction, just quiet. The badge was still on the table in front of me, the same badge Clay thought marked the end of my career. Now it sat there like a loaded trigger that had already done its job. Clean, simple, unapologetic. Diane glanced at it but didn't touch it. "We'll talk after legal finishes the incident brief." I nodded once. That was enough. She stepped out, followed by Thomas and Victor, all of them silent as they passed the glass door Clay had once stormed through like a king. Then it was just me. I stood slowly, one hand brushing the back of the chair, grounding myself. Outside the office, the hallway that used to echo with Clay's voice was dead quiet. His nameplate was still on the corner office door. His framed photo still hung next to the boardroom, that smile he always used when talking about vision. But something was different now, not heavier, just cleared out, like the air had shifted. I looked at the badge on the table one last time, then turned away without picking it up. Let it sit. It had already done what it was built to do. Victor met me outside the office. He didn't say much, just held out his hand and offered the badge. I took it. "The system reset 2 minutes ago," he said. "Authority's been reassigned. You're the point lead again." I nodded. No surprise. That protocol didn't just expose the breach. It cleaned up the chain of command. Quietly, efficiently. I clipped the badge back onto my coat. It didn't feel like armor, not anymore. It felt like closure. We walked together down the corridor. No one else spoke. People saw me coming and stepped aside without being told. No whispers, no awkward glances, just space. A long, silent aisle through the heart of the department Clay used to own. Halfway down, I noticed movement by the wall. Maintenance. 2 staffers were standing on a stepladder, unscrewing a gold frame. Clay's headshot, the big glossy one he'd insisted go up after his last promotion. The one where he wore that tight smirk and called it a brand look. They didn't rush. They just did the job. One guy unscrewed the top corners while the other held it steady. The glass tilted in the sunlight and caught my eye. I stopped, watched it for a second as the frame slipped out of place and leaned awkwardly to one side. His smile looked different now. Off balance, not smug, just empty. Then they pulled it down. I didn't move until it was gone. When I turned away, I didn't feel proud. I didn't feel vindicated, just still. The system had done its job, not because anyone shouted, not because someone fought harder, but because someone built it to do what was right when it mattered. Eventually.